Hello and welcome back to my channel Learn SST. So I have come with a lesson, that is lesson number 2 for grade 10 from MSc book number 1, Early Human Migration. I hope you guys are doing well. So let's get started. So here we have the learning objectives. So at the end of the lesson, you should be able to learn how ancient people migrated from one part of the world to another. Understand how the scientists learn about the ancient migration patterns and also to understand how migration causes physical changes in human bodies. This is a warm-up question from the textbook. Please go through. Before I proceed further, just a humble request to please subscribe to Learn SST. So let us see the early migration patterns. Throughout human history, migration has been one of the most important ways in which cultures and people have interacted with each other. People have been moving from one part of the world to another since before human civilization. In this lesson, we will look at some of the earliest examples of human migration and the impact, the effect they had on the cultures and societies that followed. Most scientists and historians believe that people lived in Central Africa about 2 lakh years ago and over several millennia migrated across Africa to the Middle East, Asia, and Europe. How were people able to survive in their environment? Answering this question requires a collaboration between several branches of historical research, that is, planetology, archaeology, and anthropology. So, first, the paleontologist discovered human bones, which indicate the pattern and extent of migration. That means the planetologists, they first dug and they discovered the human bones, and with that they could come to certain conclusions, that is the migration pattern and to what extent the people migrated from one part of the world to another. Then comes the role of the archaeologist and the anthropologist. They examine the artifacts, that is the tools and the weapons and the different kinds of things which were used by early man, to get a sense of human society. How was the society at that time? And how was the culture which prevailed? This cross-disciplinary approach, that is planetology, archaeology, and anthropology, gives a clearer and more accurate picture of how people survived in the environment and why people traversed. That means, why did they move over so much territory? Why not stay in the same place? All these questions are to be understood or answered with the help of these three disciplinary approach. Why they went from one part of the world or one part of the place to another, or why they did not sit at one place, stay at one place. Anthropologists have discovered that people communicated their ideas to each other through language. This is, even today we are doing the same thing. If we have to communicate, like I am communicating to you, and it is through the medium of language only. The information was passed on from generation to generation, with each new generation adding to the information from the past. Okay, this reminds me of a Chinese whisper. In the Chinese whisper, it is a particular sentence or a four-line sentence, and that particular sentence, when it goes on and on to one to the different persons in the group, and how it then by the end of the circle or the cycle, then it changes. So over here, one generation adding more information, adding something from their own also, adding to the past information, and then giving it to the next generation. The earliest form of human history is the oral history of a civilization. Yes, it was not written. So this was a prehistoric period in which there was no written content to be found, and whatever were the things which were communicated, it was communicated through the language from one generation to another. It is the way the ancestors learned from their mistakes and advised the new generations how to avoid them. People migrated to survive. They followed animals that they hunted for food. They gathered edible plants to supplement their diet because all the while they just couldn't have meat, meat, and meat. So obviously they wanted a little change. So they supplemented. They wanted something more than the meat. So they made use of the edible or the plants which could be eaten up. Cyclical changes in temperature and rainfall caused a decrease in plant life. Animals had to migrate to find new grazing land. People followed the animals. They formed temporary communities around lakes, rivers, and other waterways, and eventually traveled into the open grasslands of Africa. So, this is how the early migration pattern was. They followed the animals. After following the animals, when the animals moved from one place to another because they were falling short of grazing land. So when they went on to graze in some other land, the people followed over there. So they followed the animals from one place to another because the animals they went to graze into the new land wherein they could find some, more meadows and pastures for grazing. So people started settling down near the water resources, like it was the lakes, the rivers, and other waterways. And slowly and steadily, then they finally came into open grasslands, and there also the people started settling down. Otherwise, earlier it was not the culture of the people to settle down in open grasslands. Sometimes people or groups encountered, they came face to face with other groups of people and exchanged the ideas and information. Sometimes the groups fought and took resources from each other. Anthropologists, with the help of the geneticists and other scientists, have been trying to trace the migration pattern of the people. Around 1 lakh to 40,000 years ago, humans migrated out from Africa into the Middle East. Some groups built small boats from reeds and bamboo that carried them to Indonesia and all the way to Australia. This was the first major migration of early humans, obviously from Africa to Middle East and from Middle East, uh, with the help of small boats made up of reeds and bamboo, people are traveling from Middle East, Indonesia, and Australia. That was really such a farthest migration of early human. The next one occurred around say 40,000 to 15,000 years ago. Migration to colder regions. Over this time, humans developed new technologies for hunting and survival. They included new types of spears for more efficient hunting and using animal hides for warm outer clothing and to waterproof their boats. So they were using the animal hides, the skin of the animals, not only to warm themselves but also to make their boats waterproof. Otherwise, the water will seep inside, and obviously, the boat might get drowned and get capsized, and so on. These innovations allowed them to survive in colder climates. As they expanded into northern Europe and present day Russia, so people started now migrating to very colder regions, which earlier they were not ready to do so because now they invented certain kind of spears and certain kinds of animal hides and how it could be used for different in different ways like warming themselves and using for waterproofing of the boats and all. So they felt that they will be able to live in these colder regions too. People expanded further and further east into the Arctic. It is believed that people crossed a narrow land bridge into the Arctic region of North America during an ice age period when the sea level was lower than what it is today. In North America, they found giant animals such as the woolly mammoths. So, obviously, in a colder region, you will always find the animals having a very thick skin, and besides the thick coat which they have, which we call it, they are very hairy. They have got a lot of hair so that they can keep themselves warm. Humans gradually migrated downwards over the continents of North and South America. So this was a migration pattern which you can see over here. right from Africa to Middle East, Indonesia, Australia. Then the people felt that why not move into the colder regions? So some people went still northernmost region and so on to to Europe and Russia and so on. Let us see migration and hunting in detail. Although the slide gives us a lot of information only about the language, let us just look into the slide. By studying the languages of indigenous people of North America, anthropologists attempt to map migration patterns. So basically, the anthropologists have studied the languages of the local people of North America. And with the help of that, they map the migration pattern. How did the migration took place? When did it take place? How were the groups who merged together and migrated? All that. They try to find the earliest examples of languages of indigenous people. Then they compare the language dialects. Dialects means that it is the main language, like how we had Sanskrit. From Sanskrit evolved Hindi. And in Hindi, we have got various dialects. Like we have got Bhojpuri, we have got Pahari language, and so on. So, dialects is just the bit of impure form of talking in our day to day conversation. Then the similarities in the language and transitions taking place in the language. Anthropologists also examine the oral histories of indigenous people to find similarities because they orally, from one generation to another, they passed down the information. The idea is that the people who have related languages, they've got the same or similar languages and similar oral histories, may have come from a similar community branch. Languages and oral histories with elements of more than one group may indicate a merge in communities. So there might be a possibility of merger of communities. Why? Because the languages, there was a transition in the language, there was the change in the language pattern, like the dialects, then the oral histories were slightly, changed over here. So that shows that it was more than one group, and that more than one group had merged into the communities, and that had created such an impact that the oral histories slightly changed, adding more information and passing down that information to the next generation. Then the next generation, they added some more information and they passed on, and in this manner it went on. Some scientists believe that as humans moved southward from the Arctic, they hunted the megafauna, such as the woolly mammoths, possibly to extinction. So much human beings, they started indiscriminately hunting and killing these woolly mammoths for skin, for clothing purpose, for meat, and so on. That brought about the extinction of these animals. Evidence shows a connection between the appearance of humans in an area and, sadly, the disappearance of megafauna at the same time. So, this evidence is quite clear with this, that human beings indiscriminately killed these animals, and that led to the extinction of them. Let us see adapting to the environment. As humans migrated and settled in new regions with varying climates and environment, certain physical changes were happening to their bodies to allow them to adapt to these conditions. Changes in the body size and shape, changes to skin tones, hair, and changes to facial features all emerge as adaptations to their environment. So, in this manner, man adapted to the environment. So, all over the world, now you can see, and if you notice, people are not the same. The people in the European continent, the people in America, or the people in Australia, they look alike because they are in the colder regions. But the people in Asia, they look different. The people of Africa look different. So all these are because of the climatic conditions. So that brought about the changes in the body shape, size, skin tone, hair, and facial features and all. Some people have got high cheekbones, some have got flat cheekbone, and so on. The physical differences in humans occur to help our ancestors survive in different environments. Unfortunately, physical differences have been used as social markers in some societies. People have been treated differently, better or worse, because of their physical characteristics. In a modern, tolerant society, physical differences are embraced as we realize that what makes us human is our hearts and minds, not the skin color, eye color, or body structure. What a beautiful paragraph. Really. I really like this paragraph a lot because this is what is going on in the name of racism. People are tortured. They're facing a lot of problems of exploitation. So I think this is an eye opener for all. Okay, anyways, so it is because of the environment playing such a massive role on human beings. Human beings have to adapt to the environment. They adapted to the environment, but that brought about so much changes. And when it brought so much changes in them, people started, bifurcating them and segregating them according to the skin tone. So that is what is written over here with a very beautiful line that we must embrace these physical differences which we have and realize that the human heart and how beautiful we are from inside and how beautiful minds we have. Not the skin color, not the eye color, or the body structure should be taken into consideration. This is activity one, very much from the textbook. Please go through. Activity 2, this is a math activity. I've written down only the answers to it. You can add these information in the map. This is the diary. I've written down what I could understand and I've written it on my own. I hope you'll like it and you'll add some more points to it. This is activity 4 from the textbook. Please go through. Activity 4 continued. So here I come to the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching my channel Learn SST. If you really liked it, then please give me a like. Share it with your friends, with your classmates and with your cousins so that they get benefited by my videos. See you next time with my new video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.